Hi, team. Welcome to the Escape Podcast for Star Wars The Old Republic. Coming up, how to get through PvP for DvL, especially for those of you that don't PvP very often. But first, some game and AIE guild news. Our broadcast astromech today is EPC 163. Hey, 163, when you get back, I'll take you out for drinks at that new cantina, that one with the Stormtrooper bartender. How's that sound, bud? Yeah, we'll have to get beers, though, because he, of course, can't make shots. With me, as always, is Seema. Hey, Seema, how's it going?
It's going really well. Having a good week. I've been ticking off tacticals, and you've been helping me with that. Um, Also ticking off chapters. I just have a little bit left to go, and then I'll be done with DvL character doing chapter 16, which means I get 2 more pieces of experience gear, which I'm looking forward to. We messed around on the fleet tonight doing the fleet datacron. I bet you guys didn't think anyone did that anymore. Well, we do. Um, we ran some KP then after that, Karagas Palace. Let's see. On Monday night with Soldiers of Light, we are attacking hard mode Dark Fortress, which is fun. We're on the Draxus fight, which is actually one of my favorite fights. Um, and I kind of like, I don't know, I like that fight because it's complex, but it's not gruelingly a DPS check, right? So like you have a chance of making it if you do things right instead of you have a chance of making it if you do things right and you do spectacular DPS, right?
Right,
So
right.
that fight is fun to me, much more so than the next fight, but we haven't gotten to that yet. Oh, and in this group, which I've never done this with a group before, we are learning the actual puzzle to go to Draxus
Oh, nice.
instead of doing it one of the various skip the mechanics ways you can do that puzzle. So did not realize how involved the puzzle actually is. But yeah, now if we can only remember how we did it this week when we do it next time. So anyway, it's been a good week for me. How about you, Max?
It has also been good for me. And yeah, I still like going after that plus 10 fleet datacron. Now that they're legacy, barely anybody needs it, but we still had at least 3 or 4 people out of our group that did need it still and had never done it.
Yeah, and I mean having you having left a Sork up there saves so much time in the setup part of it.
Yeah, I had one behind the force field. We still had to do the messing around with. We had to get our
I
pressing
see.
our buttons correctly to
Yeah.
to get. I was not doing it right. You have to press all the buttons. There's 4 buttons. There's 6 grapple points and 4 buttons, and you have to press all the buttons at the same time then to light up the last button and make it light up the final grapple point so you can get up to the top. But then once you have that done and you have you have a Sork at the top that can extricate, then you're done, because then it's
Yeah.
just a matter of just yanking everyone up, which we've done in the past. We did not have time tonight. We even took too long doing it just for the 4 people that we were doing, but we did not have time to open it up to the rest of the fleet. But even when we've done that a few months back, less and less people need it, so it's not
Right.
as packed of an event
Yes.
as it used to be.
The Datacrons being legacy wide is real.
Yeah, it does makes a big difference. But that's been fun. Our ops night's still been fun, and ticking off the DVL achievements, still continuing to do that. I put like 10 levels on another alt yesterday, mostly by running PvP, which we'll talk about, and Black Talon. Actually, it was SLS on this one because it was my commando. But
When I get ready to level the next character I'm going to pick something on Netflix that I've been saying I was going to watch
yeah,
and start that up and just do Black Talon.
ooh, Luke Cage. I only watched the first one so far, but
Oh
that's
my
looking
gosh.
like it's
See, I
going to be
haven't watched
pretty
Daredevil
good.
or
Oh,
JJ
really?
or I
You
know,
you
right.
gotta.
I
I mean,
have not.
Daredevil's definitely worth it.
Yeah. I
I
know.
don't think I
People
even
have.
finished Jessica Jones though. I do like it. It's got David Tennant. He's a good
Yeah.
part of that.
But
But
he's a bad guy. I
it's pretty
mean, you know.
dark. Anyway. So yeah,
Okay.
that's
That
all been
that was the
awesome.
pop culture section of our show.
Let's talk about Star Wars news.
Now an Imperial News Network report.
So there was a patch this week for .7.2. It was basically just bug fixes. My favorite one was when a cartel market one. It said the loincloth of the wicked huntress robe is no longer static.
Yeah, I noticed that too. We didn't even talk about
I
this,
don't,
but so that means it's
I don't
it's
know what that.
flowy and it flaps around. I mean that sounds a little. Do you want
I mean,
that?
does it mean like it stands completely still and when you like run away, it stays behind? I don't.
Or they put a little fabric softener in, and it's no longer
Yes,
maybe that's
as
supposed to be
static.
static-y. It no longer has static cling, and it sort of lays flat now. Yeah,
The
that's a
sad
good
thing
one.
about patch note items like that is now that it's already been fixed, we can't go back and see what it was like. Of course, probably
I guess
somewhere on the
not.
interwebs we could. But yes, so it's a pretty well, it's a little glom of bug fixes. Nothing really standing out to me too much. Um, Bounty contract this week, and then followed by the green next week. So there's still time to get your bounty contracts in for DvL and killing greed droids for DvL as well. Although
Yes.
I know there's other greed droids around that you can kill, but it's certainly easier to do them when the Gree event's here.
Yep. We also got a new teaser for a trailer that will be coming in just a few days. So by the time you hear this, it might already be here. But on the 7th is the big cantina that's coming up. So hopefully we're going to get a bunch of game news. They've also now seemed to be promising a new cinematic trailer similar to what they did at the launch of the Knights of the Fallen Empire with the two, Theron and, or not Theron,
Shexen,
Thexan and
Arcan.
Arkin when they were kids. There's a little clip of just a couple seconds of another kid, and we don't know who that kid is or what the deal is, but the clip is called Chamber, and it looks pretty cool. We do see, though, it's pretty clear that if you look at that little clip, there are tattoos on this little kid's arms, and those tattoos seem to match the sleeve tattoos on the original cinematic screen that they've given us so far.
Right.
So no spoilers,
I
not
mean, when
telling
they,
us anything yet, but obviously this kid is that grown up, but we don't know who and what this is yet at this point.
I mean, I think they are redefining the word teaser. I mean, it's literally 2 seconds.
It
I
is.
mean,
It's
it's
very
almost not
short.
even. It's almost just a still that moves a little bit.
Right.
I think we can't really call it a teaser. I think we have to call it a t.
T- t- Azure. Yeah, it's
It's just
like
a
one
t.
of those new pictures on the iPhone that moves
Yeah.
for like
Yes.
zero point 0.5
Where you can.
seconds.
Right. Yeah.
You're right. That's all it really is. But we'll find out more this week. There's a lot of speculation rampant, well, at least between Seema and I, on
Rampant.
who that is. Basically, is it Valen or is it not Valen? That's sort of the key. I think it could be Valen, but I'm leaning towards it not being Valen. But that's just me. What else we got, Seema?
So there was a thread in the official forums about the scale of some weapons, and what people seem to be mostly honing in on was the lightsabers and dual lightsabers. And by scale, I mean they got bigger. So there was a long thread about people saying, I picked my lightsaber because I like the size of it and I don't appreciate the stealth, size change and please change it back. But Eric did weigh in on the thread and say that that was not a stealth fix or a stealth change. It was some kind of a weird thing that they didn't expect to happen. In other words, a bug. And so they're looking into fixing that. So never fear. The intention was never to make your lightsaber bigger than you wanted it to be.
And bigger how? Is it length or
Shut up, Max.
girth? And how, does it feel
What are you
big in
trying
your
to make
hand?
me say?
All right.
This is not Bad Feeling Podcast.
No, this is not. We also got a pretty significant post that seemed to say that BioWare has been taking some significant action today, in particular on Tuesday, as part of this patch update against credit sellers and credit spammers. And there's a little follow-up discussion that said these are actually two separate problems. There's the characters that get spun up really quickly on the fleet and do the advertising. There's also the characters that hold the credits and pass the credits around and basically do credit laundering to get those out to people that are buying them. Number one for everyone out there, if you really want to combat the credit sellers, don't buy credits. If no one ever bought credits, there would be no credit spammers on the fleet. So somebody's buying them.
I think it's two different sets of people, though. The people who complain about the spammers and the people who buy credits.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I would hope so. These damn credit sellers, give me some more credits. Yeah, I agree.
Right.
It's different people, but they did say that they've taken significant action. They've deleted trillions of credits from the game as part of this. They've deleted thousands of accounts, and they've also put in some mechanics that make it more difficult. They closed a couple loopholes that allowed people to these credit spammers to be creating new accounts very quickly, to be spamming on the fleet. And they changed some other background things that they don't really want to divulge because they feel like it's a cat and mouse race against credit spammers and credit sellers. So
I just, in general, I would say don't buy credits because it's where the credits come from is not good for anybody. It's not like they get them legitimately in the first place.
That's historically been the biggest problem. You're absolutely right, Seema. They stealing them from people, hacking people's accounts, and using that as one of the key mechanisms, or hacking the game and using that as one of the key mechanisms to get their credits and then selling them. It's a lot of incentive for people to be doing bad things when people buy credits.
Yeah.
And finally, my final point was there's still no change in the metrics that they show for dark versus light. It's still 52.91% on the light side and 47.09% on the dark side. Guild and community news. Shout out to our Soldiers of Light Republic side ops team. I saw some notes from Dent, the ops leader, in Discord for our guild today. Really giving some kudos to his team for doing such a great job, and I know you're on that team on a regular basis, Seema. And yeah, getting a new team together, getting people geared up for the first time, some people that have never done these kinds of things before, and going through progression. And we've all done it, and it's really satisfying. So hats off to that team. Congratulations, guys, and I hope that continues. And
Yes.
Winter's coming. Get with your guilds, get with your teams, finish up your DvL stuff. It's gonna end. We may hear as early as the next couple days here on the 7th of when DvL will end. I've got a bunch of hard mode flashpoints more than anything else that I've got to get done. Then we're going to be doing them with our guild. We're focusing our mandatory fun nights with the guild on events like DvL, the things that people need to check off their list. So get with a good guild and get your DvL stuff done. I'll just say that too. And if people needed a good guild to get with...
Speaking of good guilds, you could come and join us on Jedi Covenant. We are AIE. Guild info about the whole guild of AIE, because we're across several games, can be found at aie-guild.org. If you'd like to join us on Jedi Covenant, we have guilds on the pub side and the Imperial side. You can just talk to any officer by joining a channel we made called AIE LFO. Say hello and ask for an invite.
And thank you to the chat room. I'm off here on the side, typing things out in the chat room, going back and forth. There's good discussion, support. Everybody's always on there to be helping us out and show prep and after the fact and correcting all the things that we got wrong, which is actually quite useful because we don't know everything. Well, Seema knows everything, but I don't,
No,
so that helps me out.
I get everything wrong.
So thank you
I have
guys, and I will
opinions about everything.
we will catch up with you all after. And if you would like to be in the chat room, definitely jump in there. We have fun before and after the show too. But with that, I think we will talk about a little PvP. If you do PvP quite a bit, you will recognize that sound. That's the sound when your war zone pops and you're ready to jump into the war zone, and you gotta when you're queued up. If you don't PvP very often, but you need to get 15 done for Dark versus Light for the legendary achievement, which you're trying to check off the list, this segment is for you. So I'm going to go over some of the basics, and it'll even be more basic than I did for GSF, which somebody was making fun of me today.
That was comprehensive.
About how comprehensive and extensive my description of GSF was. I'll go through some of the basics. I'll dive into a little bit more detail on the maps, because I think that's actually the most important part of low-level PvP especially. But here's how I'll sort of kick it off. You only need to get 15 done for DvL, right? You also want to be sure that you're doing one on each of at least one between level 10 and level 20 on each of the new characters that you're creating for DvL. So if you're going for Legendary, that's 8 classes, 8 characters, because you're getting that huge chunk of experience for doing it. At level 10, I think you'd go right to level 16, for example. So that's 8 right off the bat. That leaves you only 7 more. You also need to get to Valor rank 5 on one character. So you're probably going to want to do probably at least 4 of that next 7 on one of those characters, and then you'll just spread a couple more around. It is not... It is... It's not very difficult. It's not tough to sort of check them off if you're doing it on all those characters like that to get it done.
So... to get to Valor rank 5, which you need for champion level, which is the 4th level, you're saying that would be about 5 war zones then?
It does go very quick. Maybe it's 6. Maybe it's as few as 4 though. It goes really quick at the low ranks of Valor. It gets longer and longer between ranks the higher you go. One thing, if you are going for actual high ranks of Valor, which you really don't need anymore. You used to need it as a barrier to wearing some of the PvP gear. You can never have a Valor rank higher than your level until you get to level cap. So if you're level 10, your Valor rank's not going to get higher than 10. But again, it doesn't matter like it used to. And you only need to get to level 5 to check that achievement off for your DvL list. But yeah, it goes really fast. Some of the other basics, you're really only either going to be DPSing or maybe trying to heal a little bit, especially in low-level PvP. Healers are in high demand. You can go into PvP at any level with a tank spec. Tank specs can be useful. Usually they're most useful when you have a team of 4 people that you're queuing with, because you have a particular purpose and you're using your skills in a particular way. If you have tank abilities like taunt, though, those are really useful regardless. So if you're a power tech, for example, you should always be using your taunts. So there are different abilities that you'll be using that you're maybe not used to using in PvE. If you're used to a certain rotation, just getting your damage done on your Sork or something. On any of your characters, take a look at your stuns, your interrupts, your crowd control, your knockbacks, your escapes, your defensive cooldowns, your ability to run away. All of that kind of stuff is going to get used a ton more. And if you keep an eye on that and you get those on your bar and you use more of your stuns and interrupts and things like that, you'll have a little bit better experience in low-level PvP even. As I said, taunts are a special case also. So taunts matter more than just, they obviously don't cause someone to be attacking you like a boss would be. It's not like they can only attack you, but what it does do is it puts a debuff on someone if they don't attack you and they continue to choose to attack your healer, for example, where it reduces the damage that's being done to your healer. It also then gives you points. There's a scoreboard at the end of the match that it gives you defensive points that are valuable, and people can see that you were helping out there and you were mitigating some of the damage on other people by using your taunts in that way. Don't die. Focus on keeping yourself alive, especially if you're a healer. Keeping people alive, keeping yourself alive, staying alive rather than like getting in a last hit and like killing a person, and they kill you, but you find, I'm gonna sit there in the middle of 3 other bad guys just so I can, kill one of them and die doing it. Keeping yourself alive, dodging, running away, coming back. In all of these objective-based maps, that tends to be quite important, and we'll talk about it in a few of these maps in particular. Keeping yourself alive so that you can stop them from capping or stop a group from obtaining one of the objectives they're trying to obtain is important. So learn to keep yourself alive with self-heals and defensive cooldowns and dodging and running away and circling around and CCing and interrupting and that kind of thing is pretty important. A couple other basic tips. And before we get into all of the game types, fight at the objectives. So all of the maps except the 4v4 arenas that you'll queue into have some sort of objectives. You want to be fighting at the objectives or fighting at the place where it matters. A lot of times people get really excited and they see, if it's red, it's dead, and they see someone and they're running towards an objective, but then there's a bad guy like in the middle on the way, and they stop to kill that they stop to kill that bad guy. That's a bad idea, because then by the time you finally get to the objective, that bad guy on the opposing team has respawned, and now they're running to the objective also, and they're going to meet you there at full health, which is a terrible idea. And finally, the team will appreciate this. Find the healers on the enemy team and kill them. Kill them first. Mark them. You can mark targets. You can click on a target. I don't see Seema here in front of me. Oh, there she is. Like, you can put marks on them because you're in a little operations group. Put a target on their head so everybody else on your team can see that that's a healer. Call it out in ops chat and group chat there, and say, hey, I just put a flame on a healer's head. Kill that healer. If you're a healer, you're going to realize that good teams are going to be marking you and coming after you, so you're going to really have to be on the ball and keeping yourself alive and dodging. If you're doing that well, you're keeping the other team distracted. But killing their healers is one of the key ways to get the objectives done as well. How's your experience been so far? Have you been mostly going in as a healer, Seema?
Yes, in my mind. When I go in, I will be going in as a healer. I'll tell you what stops me from doing it. Why I keep procrastinating it is I used to PvP a lot in other games, and I never have PvP'd in SWTOR. But I don't want to be that guy that goes in and doesn't know the map and doesn't know the objectives and doesn't know what to do with the hot ball if someone throws it to you. I'm perfectly fine running around healing people, but I don't want to fall into lava or get poisoned by gas, and everyone's like, oh, what a waste for space that healer was.
It is difficult. It is a challenge. Most of the time, if a healer's just running around and doing some really good healing and keeping everybody alive, that's fine. You don't necessarily need to focus on objectives quite as much. If you're doing an awesome job keeping everyone alive and everyone else then is focusing on the objectives, then great. You've got a well-oiled team, and that'll work just fine. You will, though.
My big fear is that someone will throw me the hot ball.
So, that is the thing you need to learn to do is throw the hot ball. So we'll talk about that in just a second.
Okay.
But you'll also need to be on the ball with, as I said, with your stuns, interrupts, and you're running away and you're kiting. You're getting away from, casting your, if you're on a Sork, casting your slow on the Marauder who keeps trying to come and chase you down so that you can use your force speed and get a little bit further away. And the best healers know how to stay, at 16 meters away, so but not 20, so they can't do their leap to you or whatever the right the right distances are, and that kind of thing. It gets really annoying, and using pillars to dodge people, ducking behind the pillars so the ranged people can't keep shooting you, but you can get an angle and keep healing your players. There's a lot of dodge, duck, dive, dip, and dodge going on with healers. Also with DPS, but definitely with healers, it's a big challenge. So keep an eye out for that. That's one reason that a Sage is pretty nice to play in. Like Sages and operative healers are Sorks and operative healers are a little bit easier to play in PvP than a commando healer, because the commando healer just has less of those defensive cooldowns, escapes, ability to vanish, doesn't have an immunity bubble, doesn't have those kinds of things. You can still do great you still do a great job as a healer as a commando, but you're just going to feel a little bit more challenged than some of those other healers will.
When I tried it on my commando, I felt just clunky. Just felt like everyone was just running all around and doing these things, and I was just glumping along.
Yeah, the other, people need to be doing a good job of keeping themselves alive as well, though. So you backing them up and keeping some of the extra damage off of them and keeping anyone alive is the best you can hope for. If it was a team that knew what they were doing, they would also be helping keep you alive. They probably won't be in lower level PvP, but I don't know. Let's get some guild PvP going. We'll help you out. That's called peeling. So the tanks or the DPS should be killing the other enemy team members that have honed in on you and are going after you, and they should be peeling those people off of you. They should be doing yanks and knockbacks and taunts and all of that kind of thing, and focusing those people down first to keep you clear so that you stay alive. But yeah, so it's a tough job, but it's definitely makes PvP, it's make or break for PvP. If you get up against a team, especially that has two good healers, even at the end game at level 65, and your team has 1 or 0 healers, that other team will win. It's almost invariably.
It's just life.
So let's talk about some of the game types. There are, it's getting a bigger and bigger list. There's 7 possible game types that you could get into when you're just queuing for non-ranked. If you ever get into ranked, it's only 4v4 arenas. You can still do the 4v4 arenas, and I'm lumping, there's 5 different maps, I think, now for 4v4 arenas. I'm lumping that into one game type. The second one that I'm lumping 2 things into one game type is Hutball. They both only count as one game type in sort of the random roll for what you're going to get. But there's 2 maps to Hutball now. There's the new Quesh one and the original Nar Shaddaa is the I don't know what the theme of the map is. I think it's Nar Shaddaa and Quesh. But Hutball is awesome. So 4v4 arenas, since I mentioned it, that's just 4 people on 4 people deathmatch, best of 3 rounds. They usually goes pretty quick. It's usually only 2 rounds because the balance isn't that great, especially at lower levels. If you have a good team that's queued up on purpose, they're definitely going to have an advantage over a random group of 4 players that got into it. 1 healer, a couple damage dealers, and maybe someone that's a little bit more of a tanky spec is a common mix that you'll find, but you can have different balances. Making sure that you have a heal on your team in 4v4 is very nice. This is all about keeping yourself alive, having coordination on your team to focus down players, in order on the other team, CCing on the other team, interrupting their healer, either keeping their healer locked down and killing someone else, or killing their healer first, all that kind of stuff. Marking someone, getting a little bit of coordination as you're queuing up is always fun. But it's pretty straightforward. 4v4, go to town, kill the other team, keep yourself alive. It's pretty raw PvP. It's a good way to get a feel for what what baseline PvP against other players is like. The other matches are all sort of get into the objectives, and you should be focusing on the objectives, and that's why they aren't right now counted as competitive or used as competitive ranked matches, because there's a lot of different reasons that the balance can be a little bit weird in objective based matches, but I find those much more fun. So when you said you're going to be doing PvP, Seema, have you not done any of them yet for DvL?
Correct.
Oh, I thought you had.
No.
So you have not gotten in there and been doing your...
You thought I had because I said I was going to, but I haven't. I leveled obviously a new character, DvL character, an operative, and she's level 10 now. And like I told you earlier, she has one healing spell. And that my plan is to go in on the operative, just do the best I can. Then when she comes out at 16 or so, she'll have, her first hot. Oh, she'll have her hot, and then she'll have another healing spell. So 3 healing spells. And I figure with stealth and everything else that it'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah, okay, so that's interesting. So when was the last time you PvP'd in SWTOR?
Never. Oh, I actually did some arena.
Yeah.
I did some arena. That was about, I want to say 8 months ago. And when I say some arena, I mean like maybe 5 games. I mean,
Yeah.
why do I call it arena? Because of WoW. I did years of arena and WoW. But I mean deathmatch or whatever it's called here.
Ranked? I mean, did you ranked? Oh, because you were trying to get into some of the... That's interesting.
I got dragged into it because somebody said, if we'd play... It was like the end of a season or something, and you had to get like 5 games to get some minimum thing. I don't know. I said, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. That it can be... Well, the season 7 is just about over. The rewards for season 7 weren't great, but there was some cool rewards. Every season there's been something cool, and you can get some really unique rewards for doing it, as well as have fun. You got to do it with a group, though. You doing it by yourself, especially ranked, is I find not to be that fun. All right, so I'll prepare you, Seema. 4v4 arenas. That's basically what you got with ranked. Then you've got these 6 other maps. First is Hutball, as you mentioned. Hutball, the objective is to get the Hutball, which spawns in the middle of the map, and get it all the way to the other side of the map into the end zone. It's really unique. I really like it compared to just the basic capture the flag or King of the Hill or all the kinds of PvP maps that have been in any other game. It really has a Star Wars feel and is really sort of a unique game type that really feels fun. You do want to keep, if you're a healer in there, you do want to keep your players alive. You want to look and see who has the ball and definitely keep them alive, so you'll spam a bunch of heals on them and you'll be following along. There are traps and different levels. So the couple things that happen all the time in Hutball is you get knocked off or knocked down. You get knocked down, it's either 2 or 3 levels. You get knocked down below and you got to run around to get back up to the top. If you have leaps or pulls, those tend to be really interesting and useful. There's also traps in Hutball, so don't stand where the fire is blasting. Don't stand in the acid traps on the Quesh one. You want to avoid that kind of stuff. And then other players are just going to be... Some people just sort of play wrong and ignore things and just try to kill everybody. The best players, though, will barely get any kills in a game. They'll be focused on moving the Hutball. You can pick up the Hutball, and then you can pass it. And so this is key.
When you say there's traps, are they very obvious?
Yeah.
Like
super
okay.
obvious. It's a big...
Okay.
There's 4 big grates and on the original Hutball map, and a glowing red ring appears underneath it as before it starts, and then they blast fire. These giant flames shoot 20 feet into the air. Once you see where they are, the flames they happen regularly every 20 seconds or whatever. It's very consistent. Same with the acid traps in the Quest one. It's not a surprise. What will be a surprise is when you get rooted and knocked back expertly by expert PvPers into the flame trap, or you think you can run across really quick and they stun you just as you're running across and then the flames go off. Or grappling or force gripping is another really good one. They'll stand right on the edge and they'll force grip you right into the flames. So be prepared for that to happen to you quite a bit. The chat room is asking which is my favorite, Quesh or the original. I think the original is still my favorite. I feel like it's got a little bit more visibility across the map to so you can sort of see where your team is and see where you're going. I don't like on Quesh as much, although I still like Quesh. I don't like how sort of vertical it is. You have sort of a whole, there's a whole underneath area where the hut ball spawns. Then there's the sort of the whole main area, and then there's the ramps up to the upper areas where the end zones are. It seems much more vertical than I like. I like sort of the longer feel of the original hut ball map. But when you get the hut ball, so here's the key to hut ball. When you get the hut ball, you get one of those extra pop-up action bars that show up on your screen that give you an extra ability. You can keybind that ability before you get in there. You look in your settings and settings keybinds, preferences, key bindings. It's under quick bars. I think it's called like extra action bar. Temporary. Is it that temporary quick bar slot? I think that's what it is. You can bind those temporary quick bar slots to a keybind or a mouse key or something like that.
Oh, I thought you had to wait until someone threw you the ball the first time.
No, it used to. It used to then be an ability that you could put on your bar. It no longer is. So now it's a temporary quick bar slot. So it pops up as a temporary quick bar slot, and if you keybind it, then you can always then have it ready to go and be able to. I still typically click it, but it does definitely help to keybind it. If you keybind it and you do sort of the either the double click or the double keybind while you're targeting someone else, it will throw it to that person. But it throws it in a circle on the floor. So if somebody's not paying attention, they can run out of where you're throwing it to, or an enemy could knock them away, and an enemy could then be standing and sort of intercept the hut ball in those cases.
Oh, so you can throw it at them and they may not actually
they may miss
get it.
Yes, this is true.
Oh, I did not know that.
The best teams, again, it's all about the hut ball and throwing and moving the hut ball. I used to remember when there was the really competitive teams, the ranked teams that would spawn. They'd super queue and get 8 people in. They would do these moves where they would throw it like down into the lowest level and then back up to a medium level and then back down to someone else that was in a lower level and then back up to a high level, and they would move it up and down, and you could never, if you like jump down to go and chase the person who had the hut ball, you'd never get back up to get the person who they are throwing it to next. And so the expert passers then have the best advantage in hut ball. The classes that have the ability to run really fast, like a power tech with whole extra ability on the hydraulic override, so you've taken the talents on that, which you might switch your talents a little bit in advanced PvP to be optimized. They have some advantages. The other class that has advantages in hut ball are the juggernauts with the leap to enemies, because then you might have the leap over to an enemy player in the end zone. Be careful not to put yourself in the end zone or on the edge of the areas where you don't want enemy players to be leaping to you with the hut ball and scoring immediately. Don't be there.
Oh my gosh! Now I have something new to worry about.
So yeah. Be careful allowing people to leap to you. But that's Hutball, and Hutball's really fun. Have fun with it. It is one of my favorite out of all of them. Let's see. I'll go to my next favorite, which is for me, and a lot of people don't like it as much, but I like Voidstar. So what Voidstar is Voidstar is a long map. You're basically assaulting a ship, and there's a series of doors that you need to break through, and the other team is defending, and then halfway through the war zone you switch, and then they attack and you defend. But it starts out where there's two doors, one on each side, separated by some metal grating in the middle. So it's sort of difficult to run back and forth and run around and defend both of them. But you need to be defending both of the doors, because the enemy team can run up and click. It's like a 10-second cast to click on the middle of the door. And if they finish that cast, it plants the bomb. You can still walk up to that bomb and do another sort of 10-second-ish cast to defuse that bomb, but that rarely happens. You're trying to keep the other team away from that door. If they kill you, you then go back up to sort of your spawn point, and you can't jump down and respawn immediately. You sort of wait up there a little bit. So that's the trick. Then this is one of those key times where it's important to stay alive. It's better to run away and stay alive and not get killed on a door, because then you can, say if you run away and run around a pillar and you stay alive and you're barely alive, and then the enemy team is trying to get that bomb placed. If you're still alive, you can then shoot them, and any damage on the person who's placing the bomb interrupts them. So staying alive and not focusing just on killing people or wasting your last breath to try to kill somebody, but staying alive to keep those bombs from being planted on the door is the best. There's 3 series of doors, I think. You break down that first set of doors, then there's a couple bridges, and you need to activate the bridge control to drop the bridges. Then there's another set of doors. You break through those doors, and then there's a set of force fields. You break through those force fields, and then there's a final set of doors. You break through those doors, and you run down the hallway, and you assault the core. That's like a 3-second cast to assault the core. That's sort of the progression, and defending each of those points is the defense on the defensive side. Whichever of the two teams does it faster wins. If you each only get through the first set of doors only, whoever got through the first set of doors faster wins. That's how that one works. I like it because I play this character I have on the screen is my main PvP character. It's a Sork, does a lot of nice AoE damage with dot spread and things like that. You get a lot of players clumping up on the doors in Voidstar, and I can do millions of damage on Voidstar because of it. So I find that one pretty fun. So that's Voidstar. Let's talk about Alderaan next. So Alderaan's a fun one with there's 3 turrets across the map. There's one in the middle that people call mid. There's one on one side in a sort of a grassy area that people call grass, and there's one in the snowy side that people call snow. The way this works is when you capture one of the turrets, that turret starts blasting damage at the other ship, right? And you have your ship and you have the other ship. Basically, it's a countdown timer. If you capture 2 of the turrets, then those 2 turrets are doing countdown against the other team, and only one is doing a countdown against yours if the enemy team controls that one. If you control all 3, then you're blasting away at them. They're doing no damage to your ship. Most relatively balanced maps, you will only be controlling 2 of those turrets at any point in time. And the best teams, when it's balanced, they get 2 and they defend those 2 and they hold them the rest of the match. They'll keep at least a couple players at each of those turrets, and the other players in the match then are going to sort of swing back and forth to continue to defend. The worst teams will get 2 and think they're really awesome and leave 1 or 0 people at 1 or 2 of those turrets and go off, and they're going to assault the third one because they're going to get 3 turrets, which won't happen.
Right.
So don't do that, because then you'll lose your turret, and trading one turret to get to the middle and the other side turret just slows your damage down. Defending on those kinds of maps is more important. So that's Civil War, is capturing and defending those turrets. Novare Coast is 3 turrets sort of like that in a triangle, but they work slightly differently. You still can sort of treat it the same way, but unless you control at least 2 of the turrets, no damage is happening. So you can only controlling one off to the side won't save you, won't damage the other ship. So this is a map whereas on Alderaan, if you're controlling 2 turrets, there can get to a point where you can get down to, you have twice as many points as the other team. You can then control 1 for the rest of the map, and they can never catch up to you. Novare Coast, you can turn a whole match around. You can get, basically them knock you down to only 1 point left, and your team can then rally and control 2 turrets for the rest of the time, and come all the way back from a loss and win it. But again, it's a turret defense. You have to be defending those turrets, and capturing the turret and defending those turrets is more important than killing people on both of these maps, and that's what people sometimes don't understand. Getting a turret captured even before you've bothered to finish killing everyone on the turret that you're assaulting is not a bad idea, because the first people that you killed are going to be running back by that time. So capture the turrets and defend. That's a fun one. And again, you as a healer, Seema, is keeping people alive at each of these defense points. That's a great plan. Keeping your team alive while they're assaulting and killing the other team's healers and wiping them out so you can cap the turret. That's a great plan. 2 other ones that are left were the more recent additions to the game. One is called Ancient Hypergates, and it's sort of a Gree-themed war zone, and that has 2 giant hypergates, one on each side of sort of a longer horizontal map with a sort of big building in the middle. The way this one works is typically each team captures one of those giant hypergates, and again, it's a capture point, and you need to defend it. And defense becomes pretty important. But then there's a countdown timer going on, and it's about 2 minutes, I think, is how long it takes for the countdown timer to go off. So you capture the ancient hypergate. Each team usually goes left. You could go left or right. Where each side that you jump down, you're still typically going left. For some reason, everybody goes left. You capture one of those hypergates. Then there's a 2-minute countdown timer where while that 2 minutes is counting down, you're either killing enemy players and getting points for killing enemy players, or in that middle building there are glowing cubes sitting on racks. There's 4 of them. You can run and grab those and bring them back to your ancient hypergate and get points for doing that. At the end of the 2-minute countdown timer, each of those giant hypergates lets off a giant explosion. If you're not standing in the center building when that happens, that giant explosion will kill you, and it's a wave that blasts outwards like Titan 6.
Oh, okay.
So a fun thing to do is to be in the middle building when that explosion starts, and as those final couple people are running in from the other team, do a knockback and knock them out and root them so they get killed. That's always fun.
That sounds like fun.
But this one, there are points for killing players. That's where you're getting your points. And each successive round, so it's 2-minute countdown timer, then the next round, then the next round. Usually it only lasts 3, sometimes 4. Each round, the points you get for killing players or running those cubes in the middle multiplies. So it's like worth 1 point to the first round. It's 2 points to the second round, and it's either 3 or 4 the next round. So it gets more and more important. Keeping yourself alive, staying alive, rather than like you solo going and trying to assault another assault point, the other hypergate, and getting yourself killed and giving points to the other team. Keeping yourself alive is even more important in this one because they do get points directly. Keeping defense on your hypergate is also important. A nice little trick that you need to defend against is it's a pretty fast cast to cap the hypergate. It's only like 6 seconds, right? If they only left one defender, a really fancy stealther like an operative can go in there, and stealth sap the defender, that single defender, let them break out of it, stun them again, and within that 6 seconds that they're stunned, because now they already used their stun break, cap the Ancient Hypergate. And if they do that within sort of like that last 10 seconds of that round, now they've got both Hypergates, and whichever team doesn't hold a Hypergate at the end of the round gets no points. That's hard to come back from. So always leave 2 defenders, especially within about the last 30 seconds of the Hypergate. That's a pro tip. And the last one, I know we're running a little long here, and I'm going long on my my descriptions. The last one,
passion.
it's fun.
It's showing. Yes.
The last one is Odessan Base, and this was the newest one that was added. And this one, I think we've even done some podcast. I think we did a podcast and we talked about this in a little more detail, and I might even showed things. I know I'm not showing anything today on the stream, so don't bother looking at it if you're listening on audio. But Odessan Base is the newest one, and the way Odessan Base works is it's modeled after your Odessan Base, and the sort of the map of Odessan. But there's 5 capture points on the Odessan map, and it's sort of one in the middle, one in the north, one in the south, one in the east, one in the west, and there's some of them are inside, and one of them is outside, like sort of where when you do your quick travel to Odessan, you end up on that outside pad where you can see the quest givers on the outside. That sort of square that you're standing in each of those 4 points is a King of the Hill style capture point. This is another one where it's successive rounds. Each round lasts a couple minutes, and each time a round starts, 3 or 2, 3 or 4 of those capture points will light up on the map, and you don't know which it's going to be before the round starts. So each team starts on their side. There's actually 2 spawn points you could be starting from on each side, and then say it's like the middle one and the outside north one that spawn. Your team's job then is to get to and capture that point. If any of the opposing team members are standing in that square, you need to knock them out or kill them to capture it. Then you need to stand in that square to get the points as the round counts down. Getting your point captured, and again, we'll talk about counting to 8 in a second. Knowing that if you've got 6 people standing in a square, leaving 2 or 3 people to defend and going and knocking out the other team on another square is a nice sort of little tactic to understand. You keeping all 8 of your team in one square while the other team is holding 2 squares and getting double the points as you is not gonna win you a match. Getting those squares captured is key in this round. There are a couple extra mechanics that you usually don't need to worry about if you're relatively new, but there's a couple power-ups on this map which change the behavior of those squares. Learning what those do, if you do happen to get one, seeing hovering over that extra action bar again and seeing what it does is important. One of them will make the square that you're on, the points tick twice as fast. Another one will allow you to go to a square that's deactivated this round and activate it and get points off of it. So those power-ups can be very important for a team that's coordinated and knows what they're doing. Otherwise, just get to one of the squares, stay alive, kill the other players that are on it, and capture those squares, those spawn points. The turrets, the Novari Coast turrets, the hypergates, it's okay to kill people on the way. For these ones with the turrets and these capture points, the King of the Hill, don't stop and kill people on the way. Those points are ticking down. Get to the capture point. Kill them there if you have to. Let them stop in the middle and be killing somebody or wasting time in the middle. CC them on the way and then go and get to the turret and cap the turret. Don't waste time killing people in the middle.
There's just something visceral though. If you see like a single guy, you're just gonna go after him.
I know. It's very tempting, but especially on those objective maps, don't do it.
Don't do it. Resist.
To wrap it up, do you want to talk about the couple resources? I'll comment on them too, but a couple YouTube resources in particular that you can give a shout out to.
Yes, so I'm going to do this actually. SWTOR has posted some videos on PvP, and I'm going to go watch hers for sure because she does great videos. I mean, to find those, I would just Google SWTOR YouTube and then look for her PvP videos. And then recently, Snave, who's a very avid PvPer and has hosted PvP events and has a lot to say about PvP, has recently done a kind of humorous video about being smart in PvP, I would say.
Yeah. His new video is subtitled "Counting to 8," and that was one of the things I was alluding to. And that's sort of the key, where you've got 8 people on your team and 8 people on the enemy team. So if you see 6 or 7 of your players on one turret on Alderaan, killing the last 1 or 2 remaining defenders that were there from the other team, counting to 8 is really important to realize that all 6 or 7 of those other enemy players that aren't there where your 6 players are probably off capturing your other spawn point right now because you didn't bother to only leave 1 or 2 here to finish off this last guy, and instead left your whole team basically sitting here.
I'm in your camp killing your dudes.
Yes. So count to 8, realize where your team players are, realize what it takes to defend 2 nodes, and swing, 2 or 3 defending each of those points, and the rest of the balance of your 8 swinging back and forth between them. That's how pro players do it. All right. With that, I think our little 163 droid here can head out and catch up with me in the cantina and the stormtrooper bartender someday. No shots. So thanks to all of you for joining us here on newoverlords.com, on iTunes, on YouTube, or live on Twitch. We will stream again next Tuesday night on twitch.tv/newoverlords around 10:30 p.m. Central. Please follow us on Twitter @MaxTheGray and @AIESEMA. Please subscribe on YouTube. And come find us on Jedi Covenant and ask us for an AIE Guild invite. We would love to have you. That's why we do the show. And we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.